going to introduce our first speaker, who will be Christopher Gardner, the Director of Nutrition Studies at the Stanford Prevention Research Center and Professor of Medicine at Stanford University. And he'll talk about how people make these kinds of choices in eating behaviors.
Thank you for inviting me. All right, let's fly through this. I'm better when I move. All right, so my goal here, in the long run, is come back to the slide at the very end. I think we need to change social norms. I think the best choice has to be the default choice, and I think taste, I don't know what you guys picked for real if I had all four things. I think people pick taste, so it's got to taste really good. So we got to make the best choices, unapologetically delicious and nutritious and environmentally sustainable, so that's my challenge. So I really like Michael Pollan's book, Omnivore's Dilemma. I think it's a little overly simplistic to say that this is what he was after, but I think the dilemma was, how do you choose when there's 50,000 foods in the grocery store? Oh my God, and then you've got these guys writing books about how addicted we are to food and sugar, fat, and salt, and the food industry's out to get us. And I'm a nutrition scientist, and I go around trying to get money to see how many grams of fiber will lower your LDL cholesterol by this much, and people's eyes roll into the back of their heads and they fall asleep because their food choices are in this context that includes all these other choices in the toxic food environment, right? So how do we do this? So I'm going to give you a couple of hints of what I've been having fun playing with. One is stealth nutrition. And I don't mean stealth in the deceptive way, I just mean in an alternate universe. So this all started when a pediatrician and I were trying to get funding to do some weight loss prevention or some weight maintenance or weight control studies in young adults. And the NIH said, you know, we're not doing very well with most adults, but boy, those young ones, they think they're impervious. They don't listen to anything we say. Come up with something cool. And we did. We came up with this thing called social engagement and responsibility. And the NIH thoroughly trounced our application. We didn't get funded. We said, we needed pilot data. And so my college junior was way smarter than me. He said, yeah, we've got to get pilot data. Let's do this right now. Let's just go get it. And I said, no, you need money for pilot data. And who would our target audience be? Where would we do this? He said, you moron. We live on a campus full of young people. Let's just have a class and go study. I said, really? How? I do a couple classes, but I inherited them. How long does it take to get a new class approved? Well, about 2 weeks. We got Food and Society approved. We created this class that had not much academic rigor at all. All we did was read popular books with the help of this behavioral psychologist, TA. And we watched documentaries. Too bad Food Evolution wasn't there, because we would have watched Food Evolution that Rose was going to tell us about later, or that day. We didn't have any midterms or quizzes or final exam. They had to write op-eds and try to get them published. They had to blog. They had to do YouTube presentations. And so the kinds of topics that we covered were animal rights and welfare, and the link between food and the environment. We looked at Fast Food Nation by Eric Schlosser, not so much about the health implications, more about the human labor abuses in slaughterhouses, agricultural fields, and fast food establishments. We talked about the Farm Bill, where the subsidies goes, how much of the Farm Bill is actually for SNAP or food stamps. We talked about food politics and how insane it is that the USDA is in charge of our dietary guidelines, given the enormous conflicts of interest. And in the end, we did a study, and we had them fill out questionnaires. We actually had 3 of our colleagues teaching other classes on campus, and so we had a control group, and we got a journal article published on data we collected from our class. We asked them food choice behaviors before and after the class, same as the other 3, and we concluded that they changed their diet just based on going to our class, and they changed it in the right direction. We are scientists. We had p-values. We had graphs. P-value is statistically significant. This is a ridiculously lame study. Come on, how many of you are going to rip me apart? Self-selected into the class, self-report, don't know if they really ate that. Why did this journal take this paper? I think it's because they appreciated the reframe or the paradigm shift that we were doing. We've done this stuff forever and done it poorly, and it doesn't work. So I think what they did was they appreciated that we were reframing this as stealth nutrition. So in my mind, I used to give talks for hours and hours on all these topics right here, and we had started to change the conversation over here. And I don't have time to go into the class, but what was fascinating is, without ever talking about health, all the changes they were talking about making in the class were completely aligned with health. But we never talked about health in class. But the outcome was the same. So my conclusion from this was that these external motivators, these societal motivators, were another wedge for getting our students to think about changing their dietary behaviors, where I didn't even have to talk about health. So this is a fascinating area that I'm hoping to pursue. And then another one came up around taste. So around this time, I met Greg Drescher from the CIA, who said, Christopher, you got it all wrong. You really need to elevate the unapologetic deliciousness of food. And I said, that sounds really cute. I'm not sure why you used the unapologetic part. And he said, think about what you public health people have been doing forever. You say, look, I know there's a really scrumptious cookie right there, but you really need fiber. And this thing tastes like cardboard. I'm sorry it tastes like cardboard, but it's really good for you, and it has fiber. And if you digest it, there's a mechanism, and we scrunch up our faces and we're like apologizing. Don't have the cookie, have this, and I'm sorry, it's not as fun, but you should do that anyway, because and they don't. They don't. So we should be unapologetic about this. He said, come on, kick him in the ass, tell him it's going to taste great. We represent chefs. And chefs are getting a little frustrated with gluten-free or oat bran or paleo or whatever keeps changing, and the clients keep coming in and they keep saying, you know that thing I wanted last week where I wanted you to reformulate the menu, or I'm onto a new thing. I want you to reformulate your menu again. And they were tired of being reactive. They said, we want to get out in front of this. We want to help drive the conversation. And so they hooked up with Harvard School of Public Health, and they make unbelievably cool infographics. Anyway, the chefs, wanted it to be environmentally sustainable and ethical and aligned with it. They just wanted to hit the sweet spot right in the middle, seeing this as the future of food. So they actually gathered a scientific board, a chef board, and a business board. So we got to make money too. And so let's see if we can all agree on a bunch of stuff. And they came up with a set of 24 principles. I was invited to participate in the scientific advisory board. We spent many months going back and forth. How do we prioritize them? How do we summarize them? How can we succinctly describe them? So these 24 principles of the menus of change, and if you saw some of the stuff that you were eating out there, there were menus of change labels over there. Basically, there's 12 operational principles on the left, and there's 12 nutrition principles on the right, and if you put them together, it makes business sense for operators in universities, hospitals, work sites, and other places where they're preparing foods for captive audiences that came that day for something. They have the opportunity to make some changes, right? Some unapologetically delicious changes. So they held their first annual conference in 2013, and they've had another one every year since then. So that's 6 annual Menus of Change conferences. The first 2 were at Harvard. The last 4 have been in Hyde Park, New York, which is the main campus of the Culinary Institute of America. The satellite campus is in Napa Valley. So Stanford hangs out with Napa Valley, and Harvard hangs out with Hyde Park. So we've been having some fun with that. Stanford University's dining long ago, this is Shirley Everett on the left, kind of ahead of her time, 20 or more years ago, went to the Culinary Institute of America, Napa, and said, I want some executive chefs at Stanford. And they said, no, you don't. Those are college students. Just slop food out. They're just learning. He said, no, I want executive chefs. And so Eric Montel is the head of dining today, and there are 16 executive chefs at Stanford University. And they do a lot of thinking about food, and we've started a teaching kitchen. So we're teaching these completely culinary illiterate, these students who show up on our doorstep, and we have found this bounding interest in just basic culinary skills, not chef skills, really just life skills, cooking. The Teaching Kitchen has been an enormous hit. And this is now launched into something that's a spin-off of the Menus of Change, which is the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative. And I'm not going to tell you anything about it because that's going to be Dr. Bob Belgenti's topic right after me. So I'm going to fly past that and just say one of the themes that's come up that's resonated the most strongly has been this theme of the protein flip. And you can Google protein flip and Menus of Change and you'll see this fabulous infographic, and I'm only going to show you this one page to get to the heart of it. So here's a T-bone steak in the middle, standard American fare, and around it are 5 other options of global infusions of flavors that aren't vegan or vegetarian. They just have less meat. Less meat, better meat. Unapologetically delicious, mixed with grains and beans and Moroccan spices and stuff that would just make you salivate if I had more time, but I don't. I have to go to the next slide because lunch isn't for a while. So this is a fun topic, is this protein flip, unapologetic deliciousness, hanging out with chefs. I eat really well anyway, but now I eat better when I go to all these conferences. So in the end, the bottom line for this message is don't forget taste. Hug a chef. Chefs can be our friends in this whole thing. They want great food. To make great food, they have to get it from people who grow great food. So they're completely invested in a lot of the same topics that we're interested in. So I'm really excited about this one. And then I'm going to finish with a rant. Most of my talk is going to be a protein rant. Okay, are you ready for this? How many of you have seen that the Eat Lancet magazine came out? Anybody know about Eat Lancet? Really? Oh my God, not as many of you as I thought? Holy crap. Okay, Lancet has been coming out with this thing for 3 years. It finally appeared January 16th. They're up for a great food transformation. They've proposed a healthy planetary diet. It's on the right. I'm going to summarize it for you. So I reordered everything. They think basically the only way to save the planet from global destruction due to environmental degradation is to eat a whole lot less meat and a whole lot more plants. So they've aligned it like this. It's now 79% plants, 12% animal. I don't know why, but they're going to let us have some sugar and some saturated fat and sweeteners, palm oil and lard. I haven't even read the whole thing. It just came out, but I have to teach it on Tuesday. So I'm going to read it between now and Tuesday because I'm teaching this food and society class right now. So when people read this, I know what they're going to say because I've been a vegetarian for 35 years. Where will you get your protein? Right? Here comes the rant. So here's some FAO data. If you look globally at how much meat people eat across the world, and related to GDP, it's quite obvious that as GDP goes up in a developing country, one of the first things that increases is the amount of meat that people eat. And then at one point, you're making so much money, you just can't eat any more meat unless you're the US. Let's make America great again. We are the leaders in eating meat. We are off the curve. Oh my God. Here's another way to look at it just in terms of protein. Most of the world gets their protein from plants. Nope, not Canada and the US. We love to be the outlier there. Okay, so this is my field. I'm a nutrition scientist, so I'm going to bust a couple of myths here. We have different dietary guideline sources for this. If you go back to 2005, there's this tome that goes through proteins, carbs, and fats, etc. I bet you you're not nutrition scientists, you don't know that when they came up 50 years or more ago with dietary requirements or recommendations for protein, they took a bell curve distribution. Some of you need more, some need less. There's something called the estimated average requirement. And guess what? We don't recommend the estimated average requirement because if everybody got the average requirement, how many people would be deficient? By definition, half. Okay, so the recommended daily allowances always add 2 standard deviations as a safety buffer. So that's what the recommended daily allowance is, okay? So it has a safety buffer, and there's the EAR, and there's the RDA. So go ahead and find your weight, because it's per kilogram body weight. That's what we recommend as a requirement and a safety buffer. And Americans already eat twice that much. It's like they think, just in case the RDA is wrong, I'm going to double that. As opposed to, oh, the RDA has a safety buffer. If I fall short, I'm probably still okay. All right. So when they tried to redo the dietary guidelines in 2015, the advisory committee said, all right, enough of this. We're ruining the planet. We really got to link food to the environment. I know we need nutrients, but if there's no food, we won't have any nutrients. So let's tie this into the dietary guidelines, which got completely shot down. USDA shut it out of the dietary guidelines update. Very frustrating. So if you ever want to cite this, cite the dietary guidelines advisory committee report. Don't cite the dietary guidelines. That's our plug that we've been pushing for years now. And then here's the other crazy thing that some of you probably don't realize. So what if you got too much protein? You know, what kind of big deal is that? We're actually super good at being resilient. Human beings can survive and thrive on a number of different things. But I think there's a basic metabolic fact that most people don't even think about. So pop quiz without using the format of the thing that you reply to poll everywhere. How much fat, dietary fat, can you store if you ate extra fat? We don't have time for the polls, so endless, infinite amount of fat. Your butt, your belly, your jowls, your underarms. Okay, how much carb can you store? If you ate extra carbohydrate, how much of that could you store and where would you put it? Anybody run marathons? You can store enough to last for a marathon. You bonk at 20 miles when all your carbohydrate stores are depleted. It's in your glycogen, in your liver, and in your muscle. And there's only 4 hours worth if you're really putting everything out. So now where do you store the excess protein that you ate? Because the RDA has a safety buffer, and Americans already eat twice the RDA. So where do they put it? They don't. There's no storage depot. All protein is functional. So as soon as you have made all the cells in hair and fingernails, you turn it all to carbs and fats. Okay. However, given that there's no storage depot, after you've repleted carbohydrate glycogen stores by converting that protein, or turned it into fat, you have to bust all the nitrogen off of the amino acids. Your liver turns that into ammonia, and you secrete it in your kidney. So long term, it's a challenge for people's kidney to be pumping out all that extra ammonia that you can't use for anything. Okay, so here's another myth. 5 minutes, thanks. Okay, so another myth is, wait, I thought I got 30. I've only had 17. I got cut from 30 to 22. Okay, I'm gonna go super fast now. Okay, here's the punchline. Since I'm getting much less time than I thought. These are the amino acids in animal foods and plant foods. Punchline is all plant foods have all 20 amino acids. They're almost in the identical proportion of animals. Nobody seems to get that. Does anybody play Scrabble? Okay, so is there the same number of all 26 letters? No, there's only one Q and one Z and one J, just like you hardly need any tryptophan, but you need a lot of glutamate. So it turns out really the only difference between plants and animals is grains are a little short on lysine, and beans are a little short on cysteine and methionine. And otherwise, it's pretty similar. Okay, so how would you get those 40-ish grams of protein that you require? Because that's about all you require, even though you get 100. Well, technically, you could get it from 10 cups of broccoli, which I know is a little insane, but who only eats broccoli all day? Or you get it from 2.5 cups of black beans. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple ways to do this. So here's the standard American diet that we've abbreviated as SAD. And does this look realistic? Here's 2,500 calories. For sake of time, sorry, I'm going to fly through this. I got 10 minutes of my time cut. So this is what you would do. All the white part is your requirement that you would meet, and all the red part are the amino acids that you would break down and turn into carbs and fat. So is there room to cut back? Well, here's a modified SAD diet. I got rid of some meat, and I put in some plants. This still has 124 grams of protein, even though this doesn't look very crazy. And so this looks just like the other one, even though it was much more plant-based. So you're still breaking down all those amino acids. Okay, now here's an enlightened protein shift. So now I'm down to 90 grams of protein. Even at 90 grams, I'm busting down all the amino acids in green. All my needs are met. Here's one of my vegan days right here. Sorry for going so fast. So here's my vegan day. Now, I'm still fine, but look, I can't go much lower because I'm pretty short on methionine and cysteine. What if I only need 40 grams a day, but I'm eating 78? It's not really the amount of protein you need, it's the amount of specific amino acids that have to meet your needs. So I'm just going to skip quickly because I probably have 1 minute now. So this is going to come out in 2 weeks. I just summarized everything that I just said for you in a Nutrition Reviews article on protein that will be published. This is the galley proof of it. And in it, we have these 4 pictures, and we're going to create some shift scenario suggestions. So that is 90 grams of protein. It's only 800 calories. But that's kind of what America eats in terms of the plant-animal distribution. Okay, plus you get a way more protein if you had the other 1,200 or 1,700 other calories. But if that's just 90 grams of protein, I would say, what if you shifted 25% of the protein from animal to plant? For lack of time, I'm going to keep going. What if you just ate 25% less of all the animal and plant protein? Or what if you had 25% less protein and shifted 25% of the plant? It wouldn't be vegan or vegetarian. It would actually still be mostly animal. And in this table, I'm trying to show that in the top scenario, which is the current one, you're getting 800 calories. In the bottom one, you're still getting 800 calories, and all you've really done is up the nuts to 1 ounce, up the beans to a half a cup, cut back on the animal foods, and you've more than exceeded the RDA. So I hope you look at this article when it comes out in Nutrition Reviews in 2 weeks. Here's my conclusion, since I'm probably out of time. For our paper, we're saying reduce protein intake by 25%, shift from animal to plant. You don't have to shift. You could shift it all, but you don't have to. With 300 million people plus in the US, if we just did that, we'd decrease greenhouse gas emissions by 40% from the food side of the story and meet part of the Paris Pledge, and we'd save 3.1 trillion gallons of water when we modeled this, and obviously more if you switched more animal to plant and had less protein. So I think that will be the answer to the folks who see this EAT report from Lancet and say, oh, but where will they get their protein? So please pull out our paper and say, here, Gardner et al. Modeled it in their thing. So I think the bottom line is a substantial room to eat less protein, shift to a higher proportion of plant protein, and in summary, I would like to offer the Wedge conference this idea that we could shift to external motivators of behavior change, that we should hug a chef and really make sure the food is delicious, and that we should think about finding that intersection where we maximize human health and health of the environment at the same time. Thanks.